inconvenience to connect through the Skype online. We are coming to you live via YouTube streaming, via Facebook streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this morning's live streaming. The importance of listening. Nanak, the effort of all the masters is how to disconnect the inner dialogue. This is live streaming, I am speaking, you are hearing it. But simultaneously a dialogue goes on within. And that is what creates the problem in your listening. So the effort of the master is how to discontinue this inner dialogue. This methodology, you may call it meditation, inner silence, yoga, or anything else, it matters not. The effort is how to discontinue this inner dialogue and how to create an open space within. Nanak says it is through listening alone that one becomes a master. It is through listening that one attains. Listening alone sustains both heaven and earth. The entire existence, the earth, the oceans are all sustained by listening. Listening makes one blissful. The moment this really happens, all pain, all agony, all anguish suddenly vanishes and gives place to bliss, harmony, and benediction. You may find it difficult to absorb how listening could make you blissful, how it can vanish pain, agony. What happens when you are really listening? The inner dialogue has vanished. A certain event, certain situation has happened, and although it has happened and finished, but its side effects are still continuing. It is like an earthquake. The earthquake finishes in few minutes' time, but the tremor continues even after that for a longer period of time. So when a particular circumstance and situation has taken place and it is finished, its after effects, psychological effects continue to bother you. The fear remains. So when you are listening, the inner sky is cleared. There is no dialogue. All this begins to disappear. The pain, the after effects, and anguish, and suddenly it gives place to bliss, harmony, and benediction. It may sound difficult to absorb. How this may happen? Intellect cannot comprehend this, and there is no exaggeration. This you have to understand. This you have to understand. The moment you grasp the art of listening, a change happens. You get really acquainted with life when you begin to listen. You feel the pulse of the existence. That very moment you encounter the silence of your being. Then you realize that inner silence pervades the entire cosmos. The inner silence that you have experienced within pervades the entire cosmos, and then everything appears to be dancing to the tune of this serenity. This is infinite zero. It is in this state of silence that the seed decomposes. then sprouts into a seedling. The seedling grows into a tree. Out of this cosmic silence evolves the first glimpse of the ray of nascent sun. Birds dance to the tune of this silence. A new dawn is in the offing. The moon, the stars come into existence out of this cosmic silence as an echo. Suddenly the aspirant reaches to the realm when creation begins from one door, and from another door creation enters into dissolution. The two things happen simultaneously, the creation and dissolution. From one end, it is like a tunnel. From one end of the tunnel, you are entering, and from the other side, you are exiting. It happens once a Muslim seeker came to Nanak and said, I have heard you can turn me into ashes, and next moment you can recreate. It seems to be a miracle, difficult to comprehend. The person was really honest, and he was a seeker. Nanak asked him to sit down and keep your eyes closed. Had he not been a real seeker, he would have been afraid, because he said that there you can burn me into ashes and then recreate. And Nanak, when he asked him to keep his eyes closed and sit down, he could have been afraid, had he not been the real seeker. Because when he said burn into ashes, it does not mean literally. He understood it. He had asked something really dangerous. It was morning, maybe a morning just like this one. Nanak was sitting near the well outside the village. Both his disciples, one Muslim and the other Hindu, were also there. This surprised everyone, including Bala and Mardana. Nanak never did something like this before. Everyone could not comprehend what will happen. All present were suddenly become alert. Even the entire surrounding became alert. Even the rocks suddenly became alert. Nanak said, the moment you attain to inner silence, I will allow the miracle to happen. The moment the person became silent within, he seemed to be a person of great trust. Nanak put his hand over his head and then created the sound of Omkar. The story says that the person turned into ashes, then again Nanak created the same sound, and the story says that the person came into existence once again. What had happened? The inner noise disappeared, and in that very moment something had happened. The story indicates something sublime. I am saying this is a story because the story is true in a sense, and it is not true in the other sense, because it indicates something very sublime and much deeper. So we have to use the symbols, and if something deeper has to be said, we have to use the deeper symbols. This is the entire science of Upanishads. If you go into the surface meaning, you will miss it. However, deep within this happened. The moment you become silent within, he attains to the art of listening. Inner dialogue discontinued. Only the existential sound of Omkar remains. The moment inner silence happens, and then there is echo of Omkar, a state of dissolution comes. All boundaries or limitations, all that is worldly turns into ashes. All that is superficial turns into ashes. All boundaries disappear, limitations disappear, all that is worldly turns into ashes. This is what the deeper meaning of that is. No desire is remained, no relationship remains. Again there was an echo of Omkar and the person regained consciousness. He was resurrected. He understood the meaning of relationship. Relationship is not important. What is more important is how you relate to in a particular circumstance and situation. You are driving on the road. Suddenly something happens. How do you respond at that moment? How do you relate to that is more important. Again there was echo of Omkar. The person regained consciousness. His eyes opened full of gratitude. He bowed to Nanak and said he thought this to be impossible. However, this has happened. Those who consider this merely a story will not be able to grasp the nature. What happens when the energy field of the Master, Tawajjuh, flows through you? All that is superficial disappears in that very moment, burns into ashes. This is a literal way of saying things. How can you say something subtle? We have to use the language and the words from your understanding, but the meaning that the Master wants to give is a totally different meaning. Those who consider this merely a story will not be able to grasp the essence. That person was capable to listen. And when somebody is ready to listen, then you can listen to the entire existence, the pulse of the cosmos, the sound of the stars. Otherwise, when there is a noise, you cannot hear the sound of sun moving on its axle, the sound of the earth, the stars, planets, everything is, even the sound of the plants you can hear, the trees. That person was capable to listen, and when someone is ready to listen, then you can listen to the entire existence. Then a master is irrelevant. Master is necessary only to create the inner silence in you. The moment you have attained to the silence, a master becomes redundant. Then you can listen to the breeze rustling through the tree leaves. You can listen to the roaring of the ocean. Everything you will hear, the echo of the existential sound, Omkar. In the waterfall, you will hear this uncreated sound. Only then you will understand that the entire existence is sustained by this infinite zero. River flows in that. Ocean dissolves in that silence. Your heartbeat, pulse, and pulse of the heart all echo this infinite silence. You will find you are no more a sound. Instead, you are a witness to it. Then death cannot touch you. Death cannot touch you. One who has learned the art of listening, nothing else remains for him to be known. Nothing else. You have understood that the entire existence is sustained by this existential infinite zero, or the sound. The uncreated. River flows in that, ocean dissolves in that silence. Your heartbeat, the pulse of the heart, all echoes that existential silence. Your heartbeat is nothing else but echo of that silence. Nanak says entire existence is created by this eternal silence. This eternal silence is the unit of this existence. This eternal silence is the unit of this existence. Once you know this, death cannot disturb you anymore. Listening renders one infinitely blissful, harmonious. You come into existence silent. Word is a bridge in the world. To communicate through word, you are connected to the other, and silence connects you to your being. Because of constant inner dialogue or the word, you are incapable to connect to your being. All the needs and desires in the world are fulfilled through the word. Silence is meaningful. Silence is meaningful in the world. Silence is meaningless in the world. To fulfill the world, you need the dialogue. Slowly and slowly you become so accustomed to dialogue, then this dialogue becomes automatic and it continues within. Then you have to do a rehearsal to speak. Outwardly, you go on growing, but deep within you start moving away from you, from your being, from your innerness. Inner connection starts disappearing. The more versatile you become outwardly, the more difficult will be for you to be silent. One day, inner dialogue becomes your habit, and it is very difficult to break this habit. You are sitting down, just sit down quietly and do nothing. Let one word float on the inner sky. Hooked on to that, many thoughts will start appearing. It is a chain reaction. And it continues. Try to understand why self-talking is necessary. When you want to talk, you have to move. When you have to walk, you have to move your feet. By sitting, you cannot move your feet and reach wherever you want to go. And when you need not to go anywhere, then you sit down. You eat when you are hungry. When you are not hungry, then eating becomes a problem. So too, you sleep when you are sleeping. Any effort to sleep will be futile when you are not sleeping. You use the equipment, it is necessary. It is not the case with speaking. You never say that I will speak only when it is necessary. Unnecessarily, a dialogue continues. It seems that you have forgotten that the process of speaking can be discontinued, can be stopped, and then start back once again. If this be not so, then all religions and their process is futile. This is the reason that Nanak is giving so much importance to the art of listening. If you really understand the glory of listening, it is the fact, the glory of the silence. It is in fact the glory of silence. Both listening and silence are two sides of the same coin. From one side it appears to be listening, and from the other side of the tunnel it is silence. It is the same. It is like a door sign. From the door you can exit out of the room into the outer space, and from the outer space you can enter into the room. You have to practice to be silent. To be in the company of the Master implies how to learn the art of listening and become silent. You do not have to go to the Master for a dialogue, but this is what we want. When we go in the company of the Master, we keep on asking questions upon questions. And questions never come to an end. It becomes an automatic process. You have to practice to be silent. To be in the company of the master implies how to learn the art of listening and become silent. You do not go to the master for a dialogue. The constant effort and the commune of the master, you will not only attain to silence, you will even be able to hear the footsteps of silence. That day, the day you hear the footsteps of silence, you are really capable of listening. That day, you will not have to go in search of the master. All around you will envision the silence, and the silence becomes the master. Through silence, you are now connected to the existence and will come to know what master is, not who is a master. Master is the silence. The moment you learn the art of listening, the master surrounds you. Then, in the cry of a child, roaring of the ocean, thunder of the clouds, rustling of the breeze through the tree leaves, chirping of the birds, barking of the dog, lightning in the sky, blossoming of a flower, all around you will envision the ultimate master, the ultimate guru. Nanak says, through listening, an aspirant attains to bliss, and all sufferings, anguish and pain will come to an end. A witness is born in you, and this witness is bliss. Listening happens, mind is no more. The sequence of the word comes to cessation, past is no more. This is transcendence, and from that height you can only hear the echo of the bliss. Nanak continues to extol the significance of listening. Only this much for this morning, until we meet again Saturday, same time for live streaming. Take care and do have a pleasant day. Skype online. We are coming to you live by